Thank you for joining me today. We are going to talk about fencing. Let's establish some rules. I want you to ask questions during the presentations, not to withhold them until the end. So you wouldn't have any unclear stuff and you won't forget your questions. On guard. That wasn't me. Okay. This is the most frequent joke I hear about my uniform, that I'm a beekeeper. I'm not yet. It's another one. And especially for English speakers. Okay, let's get serious. Okay. So you will learn today a lot about Ukrainian fencers, but it's not because only I'm Ukrainian, it's because we are good at it. And it probably has something to do with communism, because other countries with strong fencing schools are Estonia, Russia, Poland, Hungary, Romania, China. You see something in common. So non-communist countries are Italy, France, and Korea probably. They started to be really good. Fencing is like chess, but with puncture wounds. There is also saying that fencing is physical chess, because you have to think a lot. You have to think about your strategy. You have to trick your opponent into believing you are going to do something that you will definitely not do. A brief history of modern fencing. It's believed to have originated, surprise, surprise, in Spain. The oldest surviving manual is dated 14th century. Modern fencing is influenced, again, surprise, by Italian and French schools. And the shift towards sport happened here in London, but nearby in Soho. So Italian master Domenico Angelo established a fencing school for aristocracy. And he established the basics of footwork, of positioning, which are still present until today. The hits are different, but the basics are the same. There are three types of fencing. One is stage combat. So like Jack Sparrow, it's stage combat. You have to be spectacular. You don't have to actually hit your opponent. There are historical European martial arts. It's historical reconstruction. And there are sports. And we are going to talk today about sports. Competitive fencing is one of the 5 activities that have been present on every single Summer Olympics. And if you don't see, it's 1896 Athens. Equipment. So, first of all, you would need fencing piste, which is 14 meters long and 2 meters wide. There are on-guard lines, there are warning lines, and there is end-of-piste line. If you go end-of-piste with one of your leg, it's fine. But with two, then your opponent would score a hit. The fencing piste is grounded, so hitting it wouldn't result in a score. There is scoring apparatus, or the box. There are 2 reels, which are connected to this box. And there is body wire, which you connect one side to this reel, and another side to your weapon. So there are different body wires for different weapons, and they work differently. But look about the same. So you have to hide this body wire in your jacket and connect yourself from here to the reel. So like this. Well, you could go with wireless, but it's quite expensive and not many clubs have wireless sets. So at the end of foil and épée, there is a small button which, when depressed, not because it's set, scores like in a hit. Do you have any questions right now? Yes, please. So I was asked to bring my sword to all of the presentations. Well, yes, I could do it, if you want to. I also brought a lunging pad, so if you want to practice fencing, I can borrow you my épée, and there is a pad which Wayne would fix somewhere. So we could play around a bit later. Yeah. So the question is the only way to score a hit to push the button? So how this works? I will tell about it a bit later, because all three weapons have different logic behind scoring. So in épée, circuit is completed when the button is pushed, but it's different for foil and saber. Closing. So here we have breeches. We have chest protector, which is just plastic chest protector, which is mandatory for all women and optional for men. But if you do decide to do fencing, I highly recommend to use chest protector and protect everything you can, not just chest. Because fencing with amateurs is painful. So on the right side, we have plastron, which is like another layer of protection. It protects your sword arm. So if you're a left-handed, your plastron would be like to the left hand. So we have a jacket. Again, it differs for left-handers and right-handers. We have fencing shoes, which are optional for amateurs, but when I finally bought myself once, I have asked myself why I haven't done it earlier, because they are so different from regular shoes. They have like enforced sides and heels, and it feels very differently. So we also have fencing socks to protect your legs. We have fencing mask. We have glove to protect your sword hand. And all together you get a Ukrainian fencer, Feby Bejura, or a fencer. Questions? None questions. I like this cat. So, modern fencing includes three weapons: foil, saber, épée. Modern pentathlon, they fence with épées, but score only on one hit. So their strategies are different. You have to score only one hit instead of 15 in like regular weapons. Foil. In foil, you score only if you hit chest, like kind of vest. In order to do it, back to David's question, you would need a lame, like a vest from conductive material, in order to understand when your foil hit the target area. So in foil, it's quite the opposite. So the circuit is complete without touching. Yeah, and I also forgot to add when talking about pists. The pist is grounded, as are grounded weapons. So if you hit the guard, this thing is called the guard, it won't result in a score. So this is a video of foil fencing. These are not Ukrainians, because the last brilliant foil fencer from Ukraine immigrated to the United States in 1990s. And we are struggling since then. But anyway, so you see conductive lames. They're only allowed to score when they hit these lames. Foil is the lightest of the swords. It's allowed to be up to 500 grams. Its blade is 90 centimeters long. Yeah, well, and strategy are adjusted to the target area. Saber. Oh, sorry, and foil. Nah, it doesn't work. Foil is thrusting weapon, so you have to poke people, not to cut them, poke. So it has a button too. Yes.
So that means no point would be scored for like swiping somebody on the side.
No, no scoring would be if you swipe someone, just if you push this button. It's in foil. And saber is actually cutting weapon. So here you can both score with like your point, even though saber doesn't have this button, but you also score if you cut. So the target area is the whole upper body, and in order to understand that you scored, saber fencers have to have limbs as well, limbs for the whole upper body. And yeah, this is one of my favorite fencers, Olga Karlan. She's right now #1 in the world. She's ranked the #1 fencer. She's absolutely brilliant. Sometimes I think that she knows what her opponent is going to do even before this opponent decides to do it. The speed is the highest in saber. Other weapons are like of lower speed. So, in épée. In épée, you can hit anything you want. You're allowed to do anything. It is the heaviest of the swords. Allowed weight is up to 770 grams. But most of the épées are like 400, 500. This one is the lightest one, is 320 grams. And another Ukrainian, I'm sorry, but he is #2 in the world right now. And he is actually 38 years old and still competing and winning, so he has lots of medals. So épée is all about strategy. As you can hit anything you want, you have to trick your opponent, you have to constantly trick your opponent. You have to overcome your first instinct. Sometimes your instinct is to come closer, or quite the opposite, to move away. But you have to think what it is going to result in. There is also wheelchair fencing, which is like everything the same, all three weapons. Conductive limbs for saber and foil, except the wheelchairs, they are fixed on the piste. So fencers can't move the wheelchairs, but they can fence. Questions? Yes?
You mentioned left-handed equipment. Are left-handed fencers, can they fence against right-handed fencers? Are they at an advantage or a disadvantage?
A very good question. The question is about left-handed fencers. Can they fence right-handed fencers? Do they have advantage before them? Yes, there is no difference in left-handed and right-handed fencers in competitions, and you do have an advantage if you're a left-hander, just because there are less of left-handed fencers, and it takes some time for the brain to adjust to kind of mirror all your movements, because you're used to, especially if your coach is right-handed, you're used to right hand. You've been practicing for hours for right-handed fencer, and then you see left-handed, and well, it takes some time to adjust, yes. And you didn't ask why the uniforms are white. So before electric scoring sets, there were judges who were looking for touches. And in order to simplify it, like different coloring pigments were used. So épée was electrified in 1933, foil in 1956, and saber in 1988. And I forgot to tell a very important point. Foil and saber have right of way. What it is, if two fencers, they hit each other like at the same time, only one of them could score. The right of way means who was attacking at this moment first, this person receives a score. In épée, both would score. In order to score both, you have to hit within 40 milliseconds of time difference. So it's quite fast. Frequently asked questions, which I experienced. I'm too old to start. Well, I started when I was 26, and I'm really scared of at some time abandoning the sport because it helps me so much. It helps me to relax, to think about myself, to understand better myself. Yeah, but obviously I can't compete in Olympic Games at any point. But anyway, some examples. Hungarian fencer Geza Imre, born in 1974, when he was 40, he became a world champion. 41 silver in Olympics. That's quite a result. I mean, like athletes, they usually retire when they're 30, but in some kinds of fencing, it's very easy to compete when you're 40 and 50. Aladar Gerevich, when he was 50, team gold in Olympics. It's a very good result. And Ukrainian Bogdan Nikishin, which I was talking about today, 38, gold in World Cup. And actually, he's got better with age. He wasn't scoring that good when he was in his 20s. He started to be really good like 5 or 6 years ago. And yeah, there are veteran competitions. So I have seen fencers in the age category 70 plus. Yeah, and they still fence. There are separate rules for them, separate competitions, but anyway, I'm not fit enough. That's the most common question I hear. So I want to tell you a story about one genius, surprise, surprise, Ukrainian coach. His name is Semyon Kalchinsky. He had a fencer, Grigory Kris, who's won like lots of medals. He was a very high-ranked fencer. And he had to fence with a fencer who was 30 centimeters taller than him. And in fencing, like by default, if you're a man fencing with a woman, you have advantage. If you're taller, you have advantage. If you're a left-hander, you have an advantage. But it isn't true for experienced fencers because you are getting used to this, you are getting used to tricking your opponent and so on. So, back, what this coach has done. He ordered a custom-made épée 2 meters long in order to train this athlete. Instead of 90 centimeters, 2 meters. Well, guess who won? Well, he won. You still don't believe me. Another story, same coach. Josef Vitebsky. I do apologize for the quality of image, but somehow there is no good image of like those times. It was 1960s. Yeah, he had a terrible accident at a factory where he worked at. Molded metal splashed into his eyes, and he went almost blind, like nearly blind. He could only understand like shadows, distinguish shadows, and that's it. So obviously he wanted to quit sports. But his coach, Semyon Kalchinsky, didn't allow to do it. And, well, you'll see what he's done in just a moment. It's a footage from 1960s. I'm really surprised it survived all these years. Well, this fencer is, again, was a very high-ranked fencer. He had lots of medals, both in team and individual competitions. And yeah, that's how he was training him. So you don't have to actually see. You have to feel your opponent. You have to feel your weapon. You have to feel what's going to be next. He returned to sports and he was again competing. No, you can't die. Well, technically you can from a heart attack or whatever, but not because of sports. But you have to be thankful to that, to Volodymyr Smirnov, another Ukrainian fencer. He was a feral fencer. And during competitions in Rome in 1982, his opponent blade broke in half and went through this mask, through his eye orbit, straight into his brain. Yeah, what a way to die. So he spent 90 days in a coma, and then doctors decided to turn off all the equipment, all the life support and equipment, because like his brain was dead. But after this terrible death, International Fencing Federation, they decided to change their requirements to uniforms to weapons. So weapons right now, they are mostly made of a special kind of steel, margin steel. So if they do break, they break in half. They're not sharp even if they do break. Uniforms are made of ballistic materials such as Kevlar or something else. They are supposed to resist the force of 800 newtons. And my favorite one, mask. It is supposed to resist 1600 newtons. So here you see like people trying to break this mask. No luck. Still no luck. Well, your nose might get broken, but not your brain. So, no, you won't die. Can I get hurt? Yes. Just yes, get ready, you will get lots of bruises. You probably will get problems with your joints. So this time, the arm with the sword, it gets longer, but not because it grows, but because it's been misplaced from your joint. So yeah, it gets longer. Questions?
What is the right way to hold it at has a different shape?
The question is, what is the right way to hold this thing? Yes, it's called a pistol grip. The one in my presentation was called a French grip, just like a stick. But this one, it's more difficult to hold. I will show you that. But it gives you more control with your blade and with your point, because your hand is more flexible. So French grip is like here, and obviously your hand can't be that flexible just because this joint is not that flexible. But yeah, most of fencers, they fence with this handle. Yeah.
With all these equipment and ballistic materials and etc., this seems like a rather expensive sport to get the equipment for.
So the question is, with all these ballistic materials and swords, it sounds like an expensive sport. Yes, it is an expensive sport. But if you want to try, so all of these can be rented from a club. I will tell you the prices a little bit later. But if you do decide to invest into it, yes, it could be quite expensive. So this épée is worth £150. So you have to have 2 épées, 2 body wires, the full suit, which is from 400 to 700 pounds, the whole suit. You can find cheaper, you can find different brands, you can buy used uniforms, you can buy some uniforms on auctions, so it depends. But you can borrow it. It doesn't mean you have to buy immediately. Sorry, more questions? Not, yeah. The question is, how long does the match last? So there are 2 types in regular swords competitions, not in modern pentathlon, because in pentathlon there is only 1 touch. So if you fence in a group for ranking, you fence for 3 minutes or 5 hits, whichever comes like the first. In Olympic fencing, when you fence individually, you fence up to 15 hits, or 3 by 3 minutes, with 1 minute rest between them. There is also team competitions, which are up to 45 hits. Each fencer fences up to 5 hits or 3 minutes, whichever comes first. And then the second fencers comes and so on. Any more? Yeah. age restrictions if you are too young to start. You're never too young to start. It is, well, 5 years is fine. So like usually clubs accept kids from like about 9-10 years age, but kids of fencers, they start from 3, 4 or whatever. So there are different sorts for kids, obviously. They start from plastic ones, not from metal ones, not from steel ones. Even if they do fence with steel swords, they are of different size. This is for an adult, but kids obviously have smaller. So yeah, there are cadet competitions between kids. I believe it's up to 16-year-old, and then senior competitions and veteran competitions. So there are no age restrictions. Any more? Okay. Why I love épée? So being honest, first of all, it's because I didn't have that much of choice in Ukraine for adults because there are not many clubs. So I started épée, but it's like the longer I fence with an épée, the more I love this weapon because épée is about strategy. And you can do whatever you want. And like this. And like that. And even like this. Isn't it fun? So yeah, it's about épées. They're the trickiest ones. So yeah, if you do want to try it out. Fencing Club London. There are lots of them. Only 2 of them are more like advanced level. The one is in Brixton, and the one is here. Oh, I do like it. Usually, all these clubs, except these 2, they fence only 1 time per week, so it's for amateurs, it's for trying. Course of like 10 weeks-ish costs £100 around it. So you can borrow all the equipment, anything you need, £100, like 2-3 months, you can try it. So most of the clubs have tester sessions for free, so you can go for free for 1 session. Unfortunately, these courses start like twice per year, so you have to be quick in order to start it or delay your desire. But yeah. And training is not only hitting a lunging pad or hitting your coach or sparring. It's about like doing lots of exercises for your reaction, to pay attention. Well, you see. And a Romanian fencer. I told you it has something to do with communism. My favorite fact. In MIT, if you complete in physical education courses of archery, fencing, pistol, or rifle, and sailing, you get a certificate of pirateship. Do you have any more questions? Yeah. The question is, when do the courses typically start? It depends. So most of clubs, they start in September, mid-September, so when people are back from vacations. The second start is in winter, February or something like that. But you have to find the nearest club for you, the most suitable club for you, and look there. So, yeah. Yeah. Can I demonstrate for you? I need a volunteer.
Why the hell are people looking at me? Go on.
No, I won't be hitting you. It's not. You don't have a mask.
You won't witness this to my death.
Well, yeah, you probably.
Sure, it's now being captured on video.
I think you can.
I won't be hitting you. No, or you do want to, so I would hit you. No, it's an épée. It's not like this. It's like this.
Okay.
No. Don't ask. It's painful. I won't be hitting you without protection. I can show you my bruises. Trust me, it's painful. So yeah, that's why I brought lunging pad. Yeah. So I believe the question is why there is like a restricted piece. You're not allowed to go from side to side, right? Yeah, because it's sports, or circles, or run after someone. Because it's sports, it's not historical martial arts, it's not stage combat. In sports, you have to restrict to something, so you would have even requirements for everyone. And so, yeah, and you wouldn't be allowed to go indefinitely. Yes, it is tiny. To restrict. The reason is to restrict, to make it harder. More questions? No? Yeah, thank you very much. I hope you liked it. And please do join fencing, because British fencing could benefit of more athletes, because it's kind of non-existent right now. I have never seen at this point, well, until now, at least, a British coach. All the coaches I have seen here are from Eastern Europe. But yeah, we shall fix it. Thank you.